Sometimes, the deepest wounds are inflicted by those who claim to love you the most. I wrote these words in my journal at 2 a.m., staring at the notification light blinking on my phone. The message that would change everything still sat there, unread, its blue dot a silent accusation. Finally, I opened it. Cassandra, about the trip, we need to postpone it until next spring. Things are a bit tight right now. My mother's text glowed in the darkness, each word a knife twisting deeper. The family vacation we'd spent 6 months planning. The one I'd worked overtime for, sacrificed weekends for, even offered to pay my own way. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as memories of past disappointments flickered through my mind. Is it about the money? I typed, then deleted. We could find a cheaper hotel, I wrote instead, knowing deep down that something felt wrong about this sudden change of plans. The response came quickly, too quickly. It's just not the right time, honey. We'll make it happen next spring, I promise. A promise. Like the one they'd made about helping with my college tuition, only to spend the money on my brother Tyler's startup venture. Like all the promises that somehow never seemed to materialize when it came to me. I set my phone down, my mind drifting to the conversation I'd had with my father just last week. He'd been enthusiastic about the trip then, talking about the restaurants he wanted to try, the tours he'd researched. What had changed? Sleep eluded me that night, my thoughts a tangled mess of suspicion and hurt. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, the weight of disappointment heavy on my shoulders. At 28, I should have been used to this by now. Being the responsible one. The understanding one. The one who always stepped aside. I was scrolling through my social media feed during lunch break when my world tilted on its axis. There it was, posted 3 hours ago, a photo of my parents on a pristine beach, cocktails in hand, the ocean stretching endlessly behind them. My father's caption made my blood run cold, paradise found. #family vacation. More photos followed. Tyler and his girlfriend Sophia posing on a yacht. My parents at an upscale seafood restaurant, plates of lobster reflecting the sunset's glow. The postponed family vacation was happening right now, just without me. The office bathroom's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I locked myself in a stall, trying to control my breathing. 23 years of memories crashed over me, my 16th birthday, when they'd forgotten about my dance recital because Tyler had a baseball game. The Christmas when my carefully chosen gifts for them sat unopened while Tyler's new gaming system took center stage. The countless times I'd rearranged my life to accommodate their needs, only to be treated as an afterthought. I didn't call my mother that night. I didn't comment on the posts. Instead, I watched in silence as more photos appeared over the next few days. They went snorkeling. Had bonfires on the beach. Created memories without me while I sat in my apartment, something hard and cold crystallizing in my chest. This wasn't just about the vacation anymore. This was about the pattern that had defined my entire life. The constant message that I somehow mattered less. That my feelings, my time, my efforts were worth less than Tyler's. I arrived at their house 3 hours before their scheduled return. The spare key I'd kept all these years slid smoothly into the lock. The house was exactly as they'd left it, pristine, perfect, a shrine to their carefully curated life. I settled into the darkened living room, choosing the large armchair that faced the entrance. The one Dad always claimed as his throne. Hours ticked by. I sat motionless, watching shadows lengthen across their expensive hardwood floors. My phone buzzed, a notification that their flight had landed. Soon. At 7:43 p.m., headlights swept across the front windows. My heart rate didn't even flutter. I heard the taxi door slam, their laughing voices, the scrape of luggage on concrete. They sounded so carefree, so happy. Keys jingled in the lock. I didn't move. Didn't turn on any lights. Let them walk into their perfect home, still bathing in their perfect vacation afterglow. The front door swung open. Mom flipped the light switch, then screamed, dropping her purse. Dad nearly collided with her frozen form. Tyler cursed from behind them. Cassandra. Mom's hand flew to her chest. You scared me half to death. What are you doing sitting here in the dark? I remained in Dad's chair, my posture deliberately relaxed. Waiting, I said flatly. How was the trip? My father stepped in behind her, setting down their bags. That's good to hear. Making progress on those reports? I let out a short, bitter laugh. Work. That's all I'd done while they created memories without me. Tyler yawned dramatically, stretching his arms. Man, I'm beat. Traveling really takes it out of you. He turned to me with his usual smirk. Hope you held down the fort while we were gone. My eyes snapped to his face. While we were gone. Like it was normal. Like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't spent the past week replaying their betrayal on an endless loop in my mind. I took a deep breath, my voice eerily calm as I turned to my mother. So, how was the trip? She blinked, hesitating. Oh, well, we just needed a little getaway. Nothing too special. Nothing special? I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and turned the screen toward them. The beach selfies. The yacht. The seafood dinner. The countless moments of family joy that I'd been explicitly excluded from. Looks pretty special to me. Silence descended, thick and heavy. Then my mother let out a nervous laugh. Cassandra, don't. My voice was sharp, cold. Just don't. My father cleared his throat. Look, sweetheart, it wasn't. Stop. My voice rose slightly. Just tell me the truth. You never postponed the trip. You just didn't want me there. My father recovered first, setting down his luggage with a forced calm. You could have called to let us know you were coming over. His tone carried that familiar note of disapproval, the one he'd used throughout my childhood whenever I failed to meet his expectations. Like you called to let me know about the trip? The words came out soft, controlled. I held up my phone, screen glowing in the dim room. The beach photos cast harsh shadows across their faces. Mom's hand fluttered to her throat, a nervous gesture I'd seen countless times. Darling, we can explain. Can you? I scrolled through the images slowly, deliberately. Explain how the trip that was postponed somehow happened without me? Explain how Tyler and Sophia got to be there while I was told we couldn't afford it. Tyler stepped forward, his girlfriend hovering uncertainly behind him. Come on, sis, you're making this weird. It was just a last-minute thing. Last minute. I turned the phone to show the timestamp on the hotel reservations I'd found. These were booked 3 months ago. While I was still putting money aside every month. While you were all pretending we'd go together. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the guilt flickering across my mother's face, quickly masked by her usual placating smile. Sweetie, we just thought, with your work schedule being so busy. Don't. The word cut through her excuses like a blade. Don't pretend this was for my benefit. I stood slowly, each movement measured. The memories I'd been suppressing for years surfaced one by one. Remember my college graduation? When you left halfway through because Tyler had a baseball game? I turned to my brother. It was a practice game, wasn't it? Not even a real match. That was years ago, Dad interjected, but I wasn't finished. Or how about my first promotion? The dinner I planned for weeks? You all canceled an hour before because Tyler's girlfriend, not even Sophia, the one before her, had a crisis that needed the whole family's attention. That's not fair, Tyler protested. Ashley was going through a really tough time. And I wasn't? My voice remained eerily calm. Working 60-hour weeks, trying to prove myself in a cutthroat industry? But I guess that didn't qualify as a crisis worthy of family support. My mother moved toward me, hands outstretched. Cassandra, please. We love you, you know that. Do I? I stepped back from her reach. Because from where I stand, love looks different. Love doesn't consistently choose one child over another. Love doesn't lie and exclude and make excuses. I pulled up another photo on my phone, the one that had hurt the most. My parents and Tyler, arms around each other, sunset painting them in golden light. The caption read, "Perfect family vacation with our amazing son." Son, I echoed. Not children. Not family. Just son. Dad's face hardened. You're being overly dramatic. This isn't like you, Cassandra. No, this isn't like the Cassandra you're used to. The one who smiles and nods and accepts being treated like an afterthought. I met his gaze steadily. That Cassandra is gone. I walked to the mantel, picking up the family photos displayed there. In each one, the pattern was clear, Tyler front and center, me pushed to the side or barely visible. Years of subtle positioning that I'd never allowed myself to notice before. You know what the worst part is? I set down the last photo, turning to face them. I actually believed you all this time. Believed there was something wrong with me, something that made me less worthy of your attention, your love. Mom was crying now, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. That's not true, we never. Never what? Never meant to hurt me? Never realized what you were doing. I laughed, a hollow sound. That almost makes it worse. Because it means this is just who you are. Who you've always been. I reached into my bag, pulling out a thick envelope. I brought copies of every text, every email, every social media post from the past 5 years. A documented history of broken promises and exclusions. Would you like to see them? Shall we go through them one by one? The color drained from my mother's face. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, no longer looking quite so confident. Dad's jaw clenched, that familiar sign of suppressed anger. What do you want from us? He demanded. An apology? Fine, we're sorry. We should have handled it differently. An apology? I shook my head slowly. No, Dad. I'm way past wanting apologies. What I want is for you to understand exactly what you've done. And what you've lost. I moved toward the door, pausing in the entrance. By the way, I've been offered a position as head of investment strategy at Richardson Global. The salary is triple what I make now, and it comes with a corner office overlooking the city. Their expressions shifted, surprise, confusion, a hint of pride that came far too late. I would have told you sooner, but... I smiled, cold and sharp. I decided to postpone sharing the news. Maybe next spring would be better. As I walked out into the night, I heard my mother call after me. But for the first time in my life, I didn't turn back. Didn't try to smooth things over. Didn't make excuses for them. The next morning, I walked into my office with a new sense of purpose. The investment portfolios I'd been quietly monitoring for months were spread across my desk. My brother's startup, my parents' retirement funds, their property investments, all connected through a web of financial threads that they'd never bothered to understand. They thought the vacation photos were the end of the story. They had no idea they were just the beginning. I opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Years of financial expertise, combined with the intimate knowledge of my family's weaknesses, were about to become my greatest weapons. They'd taught me well, after all, the importance of family, of loyalty, of keeping things close to home. Time to show them exactly how well I'd learned those lessons. The first phase of my plan was already in motion. Tyler's company's stock had been quietly accumulating in one of my offshore accounts. Soon, I'd own enough to influence board decisions. Mom and Dad's retirement portfolio was heavily invested in specific sectors that were about to experience some unfortunate turbulence. A notification popped up on my phone, another family photo from their vacation. This time, I smiled as I swiped it away. Let them bask in their perfect family fantasy a little longer. They had no idea what was coming. Success, they'd always told me, was about seizing opportunities. About being strategic. About knowing when to strike. Well, I'd finally learned that lesson too. And I was about to become the best student they'd ever had. 3 months into my new position at Richardson Global, I set my plan in motion. The timing was perfect, Thanksgiving was approaching, and my mother had already started her annual guilt trip texts about family gatherings. I chose Thanksgiving deliberately. It was their favorite holiday, the one where they'd always showcased their perfect family image. Every year, Tyler would be praised for his achievements while my accomplishments were treated as footnotes. Not this year. The first domino fell 2 days before Thanksgiving. My phone buzzed with a frantic call from Tyler. Cass, you work in finance, you have to help me. His voice cracked with panic. The board called an emergency meeting. They're saying there's evidence of misconduct, everything's falling apart. I smiled, looking at the family photo album I'd retrieved from my old room. Oh. That sounds serious. They're talking about pressing charges. Dad's furious, he says his contacts can't help because the evidence is too solid. Please, you have to. Have to what? I cut him off smoothly, flipping through pages of carefully curated family memories. Photos of Tyler's achievements, his games, his graduations. Cover up your incompetence? Hide the fact that you've been falsifying reports for years. Silence. Then, how did you know about? I know everything, Tyler. Every lie, every manipulation, every time you took credit for others' work. I paused at a particularly telling photo, my high school graduation, where they'd all left early for Tyler's baseball practice. Just like I know about Ashley. His breath caught. What about Ashley? Your ex-girlfriend? The one you cheated on with Sophia? The one whose father is now leading the investigation into your company. I laughed softly. Karma has a way of coming full circle, doesn't it? The day before Thanksgiving, I attended Mom's annual charity luncheon, the one I'd never been invited to before. I waited until all her society friends were present before casually mentioning Tyler's investigation and Dad's involvement in covering up previous incidents. The whispers spread like wildfire. By dessert, half the women had made excuses to leave early. Mom's carefully maintained social status crumbled in the time it took to serve coffee. Thanksgiving Day itself was my masterpiece. I arrived early, wearing the designer dress I'd bought specifically for this occasion. Mom was in the kitchen, already stress cooking. Oh, Cassandra. I didn't think you'd come, she said, flour on her cheeks. And miss family time? Never. I set down a bottle of wine, Dad's favorite vintage. The one he'd always refused to share with me, saving it for special occasions with Tyler. The relatives started arriving. Aunt Patricia with her knowing looks, Uncle Robert with his judgmental comments, cousins who'd always taken Tyler's side. They had no idea they were about to become participants in my carefully orchestrated drama. During dinner, I waited until Dad was midway through his traditional family values speech before standing up to make a toast. To family, I said, raising my glass. And to truth. Then I started sharing stories. The time they'd missed my college graduation for Tyler's practice game. The Christmas they'd forgotten my gifts but gave Tyler 3 new gaming systems. The family vacations I'd been excluded from, the achievements they'd ignored, the constant message that I wasn't quite good enough. With each story, I produced evidence, photos, emails, text messages. Uncle Robert's disapproving looks shifted from me to my parents. Aunt Patricia's hand covered her mouth in shock. But that's not all, I continued pleasantly. Let's talk about Tyler's recent business success. I pulled out my tablet, projecting documents onto the dining room wall. Financial records, falsified reports, evidence of embezzlement. Tyler's face went pale. Stop this, Dad commanded, standing up. You're ruining Thanksgiving. Like you ruined every holiday for me? I kept my voice calm. Besides, I'm not done yet. Did you know Dad's been using company funds to cover Tyler's mistakes? Or that Mom's charity foundation has been funneling money into Tyler's private accounts? The room erupted in chaos. Relatives started making excuses to leave. Mom burst into tears. Tyler stormed out, followed by a mortified Sophia. But I wasn't finished. I'd saved my best revelation for last. By the way, I announced to the remaining shell-shocked family members, I've been documenting everything for years. Every lie, every manipulation, every instance of favoritism. And I've shared it all with a very interested journalist. The article broke the next morning. Family Values, a tale of deception and discrimination. Complete with photos, testimonials from former employees, and statements from shocked relatives. The fallout was spectacular. Tyler's company stock plummeted. Dad's business associates distanced themselves. Mom's social circle evaporated overnight. Christmas brought another opportunity for justice. I sent them each carefully chosen gifts: for Tyler, a prison jumpsuit with his name embroidered on it; for Dad, a frame containing his now worthless stock certificates; for Mom, a photo album filled with all the moments they'd excluded me from, annotated with the lies they'd told. The criminal investigation into Tyler's business practices expanded to include Dad's company. Their joint financial empire began to crumble. Mom's charity foundation came under scrutiny, revealing years of financial impropriety. By New Year's, their perfect family facade had completely shattered. Tyler's girlfriend Sophia left him after discovering he'd been cheating on her too. Dad's health took a hit from the stress, forcing him to step down from his company. Mom's social media accounts, once full of perfect family photos, went silent. I watched it all unfold from my new penthouse apartment, each piece of their downfall fitting perfectly into my plan. The house they'd raised their golden child in was foreclosed. I bought it through a shell company, then had it demolished. In its place, I built something meaningful, a foundation dedicated to supporting overlooked and undervalued children. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The opening ceremony was attended by many of their former friends and business associates. I gave a touching speech about family, love, and the importance of treating all children equally. The reporters loved it. The photos of me cutting the ribbon went viral. My parents watched it all from their new apartment, a small, two-bedroom rental in a forgotten part of town. Tyler watched from his prison cell, where he'd be spending the next 5 to 7 years. One evening, as I sat in my penthouse sipping champagne, I received a final text from my mother: "We never meant for any of this to happen." I took a photo of my view, the lights of the city spread out below, the evidence of my success glittering in the darkness. I sent it back with a simple caption: "Neither did I. But isn't it amazing how things work out?" Then I blocked their numbers, deleted their contact information, and turned back to my spectacular view. In the end, they taught me the most valuable lesson of all: sometimes the best revenge is showing them exactly what they lost. The magazine feature came out as planned. I posed in my corner office, the city skyline behind me. The article praised not just my professional success, but my philanthropic work with overlooked children. If anyone noticed that my family wasn't mentioned, they didn't comment. After all, I had a new family now, one I'd chosen for myself. And this time, I was the one doing the choosing. 1 year after my family's downfall, I orchestrated the final act of my revenge at the most fitting venue possible: my mother's 60th birthday. I knew they would be desperate enough to attend any social event by then. Living in their cramped rental apartment, ostracized from their former social circles, they jumped at my invitation to a reconciliation dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant. Tyler had been released early for good behavior, though his ankle monitor and mandatory curfew remained. He arrived with our parents, all three trying to maintain their dignity despite their obvious decline. Mom's designer clothes had been replaced by department store bargains. Dad's confident stride was now a weary shuffle. Tyler's once pristine appearance had grown unkempt. I'd reserved the entire rooftop terrace. They found me standing at a table set for 8, champagne already poured. "Cassandra," Mom stepped forward, arms outstretched. "We're so glad you're finally ready to." "Please, take your seats," I interrupted smoothly. "We're waiting for our other guests." Before they could ask, the elevator doors opened. In walked Ashley, Tyler's ex-girlfriend whom he'd cheated on, now a successful prosecutor. Behind her came David Cole, Dad's former business partner whom he'd betrayed years ago. Finally, Sophia appeared, Tyler's most recent ex, who'd lost everything in his scandal. The color drained from their faces. "What is this?" Dad demanded, but his voice lacked its old authority. "This?" I smiled, raising my glass. "This is a celebration. Not just of Mom's birthday, but of karma." Over the next 2 hours, I orchestrated their final humiliation. Ashley detailed how she'd helped build the case against Tyler. David revealed how Dad's betrayal had motivated him to provide evidence of years of financial misconduct. Sophia shared intimate details of Tyler's continuing deceptions. But the coup de grace came when I unveiled my latest acquisition. I'd bought out what remained of Dad's company, pennies on the dollar. The board meets tomorrow, I informed him. To vote on the new company name. I'm thinking of removing the family name entirely. After all, it's rather tainted now. Mom broke down completely. Tyler lunged across the table, only to be stopped by his ankle monitor's warning beep. Dad just sat there, destroyed. You've ruined us, he whispered. No, I corrected him, standing to leave. You ruined yourselves. I just made sure you couldn't drag anyone else down with you. I left them there, surrounded by the witnesses to their downfall, with the bill for the evening, more than their monthly rent, waiting to be paid. The next morning, I was featured on the cover of Fortune magazine, the new face of corporate innovation. The article praised my business acumen and philanthropic work, particularly my foundation for overlooked children. A week later, I received 3 separate desperate messages. Mom, we're being evicted. Please, we have nowhere else to go. Dad, the medical bills. I can't handle the stress anymore. Tyler, they're revoking my parole. I made one mistake. I forwarded their messages to my assistant with simple instructions: send them contact information for homeless shelters, discount medical clinics, and public defenders. Then I turned my attention to more important matters, finalizing plans for my destination wedding in the Maldives. My fiancé, a brilliant humanitarian lawyer, had planned something intimate but luxurious. Just close friends and chosen family. On my wedding day, I received a final email from my mother. They'd seen the society page announcement. She begged to be part of my special day, promised they'd changed, swore things would be different. I read it while getting ready in my ocean view suite, my true family around me, friends who'd supported me, mentors who'd believed in me, people who'd chosen to love me for who I was. My response was simple: I learned everything about family from you, including who shouldn't be part of mine. The ceremony was perfect. Photos showed me radiant in designer white, the ocean sparkling behind us. My foundation's success had made headlines again, with a new branch opening in Europe. My investment firm had just closed its biggest deal yet. Meanwhile, Tyler had violated parole and was back in prison. Dad had suffered another stress-related health crisis, with no insurance to cover it. Mom was last seen working as a sales clerk at a discount store, her social queen status a distant memory. I had everything they'd never thought I'd achieve: success, love, respect, and most importantly, peace. My revenge wasn't just complete, it had transcended mere payback to become something more: absolute triumph. That night, dancing under the stars with my husband, surrounded by people who truly loved me, I finally felt free. The damaged, overlooked daughter was gone, replaced by a woman who had taken control of her own destiny. Later, in our honeymoon suite, I posted a single photo to social media. Me in my wedding dress, laughing joyfully, with the caption, "Found my real family. Blood is optional, love is mandatory." I knew they would see it. Knew it would burn more than any other revenge I'd enacted. Because it showed them the undeniable truth: I had not only survived without them, I had flourished. Back home, my penthouse overlooking the city awaited. My company was thriving, my foundation was changing lives, and my real family, the one I chose, was strong and true. The final page of my story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about victory, about rising above, about creating a life so magnificent that their betrayal became nothing more than a footnote in my success story. They had spent years making me feel small. Now they lived in the shadow of the empire I had built, forced to watch as I achieved everything they had never thought me capable of. That, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all: not just succeeding, but succeeding so spectacularly that their existence became irrelevant to my happiness. I had won. Completely, absolutely, irrevocably. And I would never look back.